Hello, my name is Kim Taejae, and today I will talk about North Korean Songbun system. North Korea officially claims to be a socialist society built for equality and class liberation. However, in reality, it has developed one of the most rigid systems of hereditary social classification in the modern world. This system is called Songbun. It classifies people according to family background, political loyalty, and perceived reliability. In this presentation, I will explain how Songbun is divided and how it developed historically and how it affects people's lives today and whether this system may change in the future. Songbun can be understood as a political caste system. It is divided into three groups. At the top, there are normal people. It is called normal, but actually core loyal population. These are people whose family background is considered politically trustworthy. The second group is the complicated people, meaning people whose loyalty is uncertain or politically ambiguous. At the bottom are the remnants of the hustle class. These include people with family backgrounds connected to landlords, religious groups, defectors, South Korea, or other so-called enemy elements. And more higher at the top, very top, there are Mountain Baekju stem, referring to the Kim family or its relatives and the most politically privileged revolutionary elite. To understand Songbun, we need to look at North Korean history. After liberation in 1945 and the division of Korea, the new North Korean regime tried to build a socialist state. In 1946, land reform attacked landlords and formal elites. During the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, political loyalty became even more important. In the 50s and 60s, as Kim Il-sung consolidated his power, the state began to identify who was loyal and who was dangerous. Then, through the resident registration project from 1967 to 1970, the population was classified more systematically. This famine and marketization of the 1990s later weakened Songbun in daily life because money and markets become more important. But politically, Songbun still remains powerful. This is the most important contradiction. North Korea claimed to create a classless socialist society, but its equality was not universal. Equality mainly applied to loyal working people, not to so-called class enemies. In other words, the regime believed that some people had to be rewarded as revolutionary supporters, while others had to be watched, restricted, or excluded as potential enemies. This is why Songbun was not seen by the regime as a contradiction. It was seen as a tool of revolution and political control. So, Songbun transformed revolutionary class struggle into a hereditary political caste system. A system that claimed to abolish class inequality created a new hierarchy based on political loyalty and family origin. Today, Songbun affects many parts of everyday life. It can influence education, such as access to elite schools and universities. It can influence jobs, including whether someone can work in the party or military, government, or only in low-status labor. It can influence residents, especially whether someone can live in capital, Pyongyang, or must stay in rural or peripheral areas. It can influence food and resources, because privileged groups may have better access to distribution and benefits. It can influence surveillance, meaning the level of trust, monitoring, and punishment risk. It can even influence marriage and social networks because family reputation matters. So, Songbun is not only a political label, it organizes life chances. This slide shows the difference between the four groups more visually. The highest group, Baekdusan Julgi, lives with political privilege, better housing, better food, and better education. The core population, Gibon Gunjung, may live more ordinary but relatively stable lives with access to school, work, and state institution, and they are allowed to live in the capital. The complicated group, 복잡한 군중, faces more uncertainty. They may still participate in society, but with fewer opportunities and more restrictions. The hustle class remnants, 적대계급 자녀분자, experience exclusion most strongly. They may face poor housing, limited food access, weaker education or no education, low status work, and stronger surveillance. Of course, this image is a simplified representation, but it helps show how a political classification system becomes visible in daily life. However, Songbun today does not operate exactly as it did in the past. After the famine of the 1990s, markets expanded. The 장마당 generation grew up in a society where money, trade, and informal networks became increasingly important. This created a new tension. Under the old rationing system, higher 성분 meant better access to resources. But in the market system, people with more money can sometimes get better resources regardless of 성분. Bribery can also weaken formal classification. Outside information, such as foreign media and contact with defectors, can challenge state ideology. But this does not mean 성분 has disappeared. The state still uses 성분 for political control, surveillance, and access to sensitive positions. So, what are the prospects for change? In the short term, 성분 is likely to persist. It protects regime control. There is no open opposition allowed, and surveillance remains strong. But in the long term, gradual erosion is possible. Markets create alternative resources. Bribery weakens formal classification. Outside information changes attitudes. International human rights pressure also continues. Therefore, my conclusion is balanced. 성분 may weaken in everyday economic life, but it will likely remain politically powerful as long as the regime depends on loyalty, surveillance, and hereditary trust. Songbun shows a deep contradiction in North Korean society. North Korea claims to be classless and equal, but Songbun creates a hereditary hierarchy based on family background and political loyalty. So, the key message of this presentation is this. Songbun turns family history into social destiny. Thank you for listening.